What's going on, everyone? In today's video, we're going to talk about restricted books on Amazon FBA. These are books that you cannot sell as a seller, and it's really frustrating, honestly, when you come across these books because a lot of times they can be valuable, right? They can have some money. But with that said, let's get right into the video. So what are the strategies that I take to do with these books that are restricted that I can't sell on Amazon? Well, the number one reason why a book would be restricted is because it is a textbook and because it's likely to be counterfeit. So we'll talk about that in a second. But really, there's three things that I see that you could do with this book. And the first thing is you could try to sell it to a buyback company. Number two, sell it on eBay. Or number three, you could try to sell it back through restrictedinventory.com. So basically, we're going to go over all three of those options, and we're going to talk about counterfeit textbooks and a lot of stuff. So let's get right into my screen. All right, so we're over here on Amazon, and you have the dreaded eligibility, which says, no, you cannot sell this. So I would say the best way to deal with restricted books is just not to buy them in the first place. I do all Amazon to Amazon online arbitrage, which means I buy the books on Amazon and resell them on Amazon. So if you have Seller app downloaded, this is super easy because it'll tell you that, no, you can't sell this book right here. Now, if you don't have Seller app, it might be a little bit trickier. You're going to have to go to add a product on Amazon Seller Central, and then it'll tell you there whether or not you can sell it or not. But, in this case, like let's say you did have this book, what do you do with it? Well, the first thing that you should do is actually check to see if this is a book that's likely counterfeited, because then there's some other things that you might need to do with it. So if you go and take the ASIN of this book, you can actually go over to a website called booksrun, and they have a booksrun, counterfeit calculator, which gives you the probability that they think that your book is going to be counterfeit. So you can see that this title is actually highly likely to be counterfeited. And you might be asking like, well, how do they know it's highly likely to be counterfeited? And I don't, know the answer to that, but my best educated guess is they probably have worked a lot with the law firm that's trying to deal with all these counterfeit textbooks in the marketplace. And so they probably have a list of books that are commonly, counterfeited or commonly flagged as having a problem. So, over here, this is a book that's highly likely to be counterfeit. What you'd want to do is definitely inspect this book and try your best to figure out if it's counterfeit or not. Because if it is counterfeit or you suspect it's counterfeit, technically you're supposed to send it to the publisher directly. So I'm over on a website called stopcounterfeitbooks.com. And basically, this is a cool website. You can try, play this quiz to spot the counterfeit. You can figure out like how to avoid counterfeits, like how to identify counterfeit textbook, all that kind of stuff. But, there's a little report button here as well, where basically if you believe that a book is counterfeit, you're supposed to send it back to the publisher. So the first thing that I would do is if you have a book that is restricted, figure out if it's highly likely to be counterfeit or not. Not all of them will be. Some of them will be likely to be counterfeit. So do your best to try to figure out if it is counterfeit or not. And again, you can use that website, and a lot of really common things would be like the color of the binding glue, whether or not the pages peel off. There's a lot of like small things. And in all honesty, like a lot of times the counterfeit textbooks are very similar in quality to the actual real copies. And it might be actually very difficult for you to tell, but that's the first thing that you gotta try to do is if it's a restricted book, identify if it's counterfeit or not. If it's not counterfeit, then you got some other options. So what I'll say is, like, let's pretend that this book wasn't highly likely to be counterfeit. Let's just say this is a book you couldn't sell. What can you do with the book? Well, like I said, first thing you can do is try to sell it to a buyback company. And so I'm going to go over to a website called bookfinder.com. And when you go to bookfinder.com, you can basically type in the ISBN or the ASIN of a book. So I'm going to grab the ASIN on Seller app here. I'm going to go and type that in the ISBN section and click Find Book. And basically, Bookfinder is going to return back all of the different results of this book on Amazon. And it's also going to give me the option here for the best buyback offer. So you can see that right now Textbook Rush is offering $7.76 for this book, which is really not that much considering like the lowest use price is $37. And this book can easily sell for $70 to $80, maybe even up to $100, right? And selling to a buyback company in this case for that book is not going to be the best case. So then you might consider, well, maybe you should sell it on eBay. So if we come up here to the Keep a Chart and click on eBay, you'll be able to see that there's a whole bunch of different listings here. And if we click on sold listings, you can see there's probably people who sold it, for more than $7. So again, one thing I want to be clear about is if you think that the book is counterfeit at all, you shouldn't be selling it at all. You should send it back according to, what that website told you to do. But a lot of times you'll come across these books that are highly likely to be counterfeit and, they have an authentication sticker on them. The pages feel glossy and they feel fine. The binding glue looks fine. Just because a book is highly likely to be counterfeit or likely to be counterfeit doesn't mean it is. It just means that there's a high possibility that it could be. So again, if you have any perception or if you think that the book is actually counterfeit, when looking at it, don't sell it at all. Okay, please don't sell it at all. Okay, so this might be the case where maybe selling on eBay makes a little bit more sense. Or the other option is you can go over to another website called restrictedinventory.com, and you can type in, once you make an account, you can type in ASIN, and basically they're going to estimate what they think their profit would be if they were to sell this book. So, basically restrictedinventory.com, they have a way to vet books anyway. So if you send them your books, even if they're highly likely to be counterfeit, they have the system in place to actually identify if those books are counterfeit or not. And if they are counterfeit, they're going to, dispose of them in the proper means. So, if you're not sure if the book is counterfeit, maybe that's the best option because they'll basically inspect it for you. And one of the downsides of restrictedinventory.com is you have to actually pay for the shipping of the books to the warehouse. But basically the way it works is they'll give you 50% of the after fees revenue, or after fees, I guess it's technically profit. So those are the three options, sell it to buyback company, sell it on eBay, or sell it to restrictedinventory.com. And what I will say is that I tend to choose the option which is going to make me the most money for the least amount of work. So let's go over a couple other ones as well, just to give you an idea. So this is a book called Guide to Graphic Design. You can actually see that this is also a book that I can't sell. I'm not eligible to sell it. So again, the first thing would be to try to see, is this a book that is likely to be counterfeit or not? So this is a book that says unlikely to be counterfeit. Okay, so this is a book where maybe booksrun is saying that they don't have any history of having problems with it, or at least seeing it. That doesn't mean it's not counterfeit. It just means that they don't have a lot of history of this book being, flagged all the time. So obviously inspect the book, try to make sure and confirm that it's legit. If it is legit, then again, three options. You can sell it on eBay, sell it to restrictedinventory.com, or sell it to a buyback. So, honestly, the first thing that I always like to check is the buyback companies, because that is honestly the least amount of work, and usually it's often the most amount of money. So you can see that booksrun is offering $30 right now for this book. And so what we have to figure out is, could we make more money doing two of the other things? Well, restrictedinventory.com, they're going to sell your book and give you half of the after fees, profit. So, if we think about this book, if let's say they could sell up in the $100 range, like this book was selling for between January and May. Well, if they can sell for 100 after Amazon fees, it's probably like 75. Half of 75 is going to be like 32, right? 35. Oh, I can't even do math. It's really late at night, guys. I'm sorry. So half of 75, what is that going to be? So half of 70 would be 35. So it's going to be 37.50. So basically 37.50 is what they would get you if they could sell it for $100 on average, right? But then also you'd have to pay for the shipping of that book into restrictedinventory.com. So in this case, I would probably lean towards the side of just selling it to booksrun, because you can make $30. Now, obviously the other option is you can sell it on eBay. If we go to eBay, you can see that we've got some listed in the $60 range. If we look at the sold comps though, looks like this book is generally selling in the 30 range, potentially up to 65, but generally in the 30 range. So obviously you wouldn't want to sell for $30 on eBay if you could sell it to a buyback company for 30, because on eBay you have shipping fees. You also have, I don't know what's called, the final value fee or something like that. eBay takes 15%. So obviously the winner of the three, in my opinion, for this book would be to sell it to a buyback company. Basically they'll give you a free shipping label. You send it to them, they inspect it, boom, you get paid money. And also what's really cool about booksrun is if you go over to booksrun Instagram, they usually have like 6% additional add-on codes. So, if you go, you can see use October 23, and you can see you'll get 6% more back for your money. So they run those all the time, and you can make, a little extra money. Let's go over maybe one or two more examples of, kind of what I would do if I were to look at a book. So here's the next one, rules for writers. Again, I can't sell it. Let's look to see if it's likely to be counterfeit or not. This one also says unlikely to be counterfeit. So again, inspect it on your own. Make sure, you think it's a legitimate copy. If it's a legitimate copy, then try to figure out what we can do with it. So if we look at this book here and we look at the keep chart, it's basically been worth like a couple of bucks. Like the lowest use price has always been around $1 to $2. So basically worthless this whole time. So we could try to put it in the book finder and see what we get. And looks like there's no offer. So obviously we can't sell this book to a buyback company. Well, can we sell it on eBay? Well, I'm going to guess that if this is only a couple of bucks on Amazon, probably unlikely that this book, there's all these listings for $4.58. So, I don't even know if you can ship this book for $4.58 with medium mail rates these days. So that's probably off the table. So the question is, maybe you can send it back to restrictedinventory.com. Let's see. They estimate that you'd actually lose money. So I guess this is a book you couldn't really do anything with. So unfortunately, guess you'd probably just have to dispose of this book. Now, what's actually interesting is that you notice that in September, this is actually buy boxing for the 35. Even got up to 70 and 60, which probably might have sold once or twice, but probably these were selling in the 30 to 35 range. So if maybe, this might be a book that you strategically hold on to and wait a little bit longer, maybe closer towards textbook textbook season, because maybe restrictedinventory.com would open up this book because maybe the algorithm senses that it's textbook season and maybe the prices start increasing a little bit. And so maybe you can get the book in the door there, because basically they're going to try to maximize what they can sell for. And if they can win the buy box at $35 when the book is really just worth a couple bucks, I mean, they might actually be able to squeeze you $10 out of this book. I mean, it's possible. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying that that's possible. All right, let's look at another book. So this one, organic chemistry. Again, I can't sell it. Let's click the ASIN. Let's go over here and see if it's likely to be counterfeit or not. And this one says highly likely. So again, really important. Take it, look at it, inspect it. If you have any idea or if you have any belief that it could be counterfeit, then obviously don't sell it at all. Or at least, don't sell it on eBay, or probably don't sell it to a buyback company either. I mean, like I said, restrictedinventory.com, they supposedly have the, right processes in place to identify counterfeits, and worst case scenario, they'll just, you won't get the book back if it is counterfeit. So highly likely to be counterfeit. Let's say we looked at it, we said, okay, it looks good to us. It has an authentication sticker on it. It's, its pages, they feel the right way. They're glossy. Let's say everything checks out, and very, fairly confident that this is actually going to be a book that is legitimate. Then again, what we could do is we can go ahead and take the ISBN here or the ASIN, and we can come over here to Bookfinder, boom, put that in there. And you can see that, wow, booksrun is offering us 30 cents for this book, which is nothing at all. So that's going to be off the table. Then what we can possibly see is it selling on eBay for anything? So we can go to eBay. Looks like you can sell for about $18, but there's a lot of offers. And it looks like, ASIN's selling right around the $19 range. Okay, so maybe that's good. So maybe that's our best option right now, selling on eBay for $19. Then the other option is, let's see if restricted inventory, perceives that they can sell this book for anything. So they perceive you can sell for a $6.55 profit. So in this case, this is a hard one, right? There doesn't seem to be a clear winner. Obviously, buyback companies, is not going to be the offer, but probably restrictedinventory.com or eBay is your bet. It's up to you how much work you want to do, but there's an example. All right, let's go over one more example here. Dr. Seuss. This is a book I actually bought, and I don't know what I was doing. I wasn't paying attention, I guess, because I'm not able to sell this. So obviously this isn't a textbook, so we don't have to worry about the counterfeit textbook in this case, but we do have to figure out what to do with this book. And so if we scroll down the keep it chart, one thing you'll notice is that, when I picked it up, it was pretty cheap here. Picked it up for $13, and it had sales range drops as high as 50 in the past, and pretty good sustained sales range drops, 40 to 50. I think this is a brand that have to get ungated in somehow, but nonetheless, we have to figure out what to do with this. So option number one is we can sell it to a buyback company, which I don't think they would offer anything for this, but maybe they do. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, they offer $1 for this book, so that's super promising. But it's $1. We can go down here to the keep grab and click on the eBay, and we go to eBay. You can see there's a few listed for 30, some up there for 50, and you can see one was just sold sold for $29.99. And I would say probably eBay makes way more sense than selling to a buyback company. The next question is, would restrictedinventory.com actually take this book? And let's see if they do or not. Okay, so they actually perceive that you can make $19.48 if you send this book to them. So in this case, if you think you can maybe only sell for $20 on eBay, but you might be able to make $19 profit on restrictedinventory.com without doing any of the work, the shipping to the customer service, then maybe that's your best bet there. So I hope this video wasn't too long. I mean, the goal of it was just to help you figure out what to do with your books that are restricted. The number one goal is to not even buy a restricted book. That's the best way to deal with this. Don't even buy the book in the first place. But if you do, if it's a textbook, make sure you check to see if it's counterfeit or not. Otherwise, sell to a buyback company, sell on eBay, or sell to restrictedinventory.com. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'll see you guys on the next one, and goodbye.